Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back to Mr. Mahmoud Helmi channel. Today, inshallah, we will have a new chapter from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens for grade 9, second term. The title of chapter, A Dangerous Journey. We will start with a summary of the chapter. Mr. Lorry goes to Paris. We will see the reasons for the journey of Mr. Jervis Lorry to Paris. And we will also see the reasons for Charles Darnay's journey to Paris. Okay. 3 years of the revolution had passed until it still raged. Some French noblemen fled to England and gathered intelligence back in London. There was fear that the people in France would break in and destroy the important documents and records of the bank in Paris. So Mr. Lorry offered to go there to protect and hide the bank documents. So here we see the reason for Mr. Lorry's journey to uh, travel to Paris at that dangerous time. Charles Darnay tried to discourage Mr. Lorry, saying that Paris wasn't safe and the journey was long. But Mr. Lorry said that he was an old Englishman and nobody would harm him. Mr. Lorry decided to go to Paris at once, accompanied by Jerry Cruncher, that his assistant. The clerk of the bank brought a letter to Mr. Lorry while Charles was sitting with him. Charles recognized the handwriting on the letter at once. It was a letter from France to the Marquis of Evermond of France. The bank was unable to deliver the letter because nobody knew who the Marquis of Evermond was. Charles offered to deliver the letter himself because he knew the man. We know that Charles Darnay was living in London under a false name, Charles Darnay, but his real name was Saint Evermond. Charles Darnay decides to go to Paris. Now we will see the reasons for Mr. Charles Darnay's traveling to Paris. The letter was from Darnay's faithful servant Gabelle, who was imprisoned in the prison of Abia in Paris and was going to be killed because he was serving the Evermont family. He told the patriots that the new monarchs had ordered him not to collect rent and to return the taxes. However, he was accused of treason. Charles decided to go to France to save his royal servant and restore his good name. Before he left, Donny had written two letters to Lucy and her father explaining the reasons for his journey to Paris. Of course, he didn't tell his wife that he was going to Paris, and he didn't tell Dr. Manet he was going to Paris. Otherwise, they might prevent him from that dangerous journey. The trip to Paris. Darnay's journey to Paris was not easy at all. The patriots stopped him at the gates of every village and demanded identification papers to check his name against the lists of names they had. Darnay had to show Gabelle's letter every time he was questioned to prove that he had come to serve his faithful servant. When he reached to Paris, they treated him as a prisoner, and the officer ordered Citizen Devarge to take the prisoner to the prison La Force. Charles tried to defend himself, but tried tried the officer told him that immigrants have no rights. Citizen Devarge asked Charles, "Why on earth did you come back to France?" Donny asked if he would be imprisoned just because he was the immigrant of a month without any trial. Devarge responded that he would be treated like those poor people had been treated before, in reference to Dr. Manet and what had happened to him when he was in prison for 18 years without trial. Charles asked to help him send a message to Mr. Lorry, telling him that he was imprisoned in La Force. Devange replied, "I will do nothing for you, Evamont. You are my enemy." Before we see questions and answer, we will see a short scene about Charles Darnley journey from London to Paris. Let's see.
Your papers, citizen. I'll give you an escort to Paris.
An escort? Whatever for? I don't need one.
Silence, aristocrat. You'll have an escort, and you'll pay for it.
I have no choice.
Choice, listen to it. You'll pay dearly, and you'll thank your God for our protection.
Can't you see I'm here under my own free will?
You are a cursed aristocrat.
Leave him be. He'll be judged in Paris.
Judged? What are you talking about?
Yes, judged and condemned as a traitor.
My friends, you deceive yourselves. I am no traitor.
Enough. You will very quickly discover, monsieur, that we have a decree banning all aristocrats and condemning to death those that return. Now, about the money for the escort. 100 louis.
We see that he has to pay money to let him go.
Send him on.
This is Charles' journey from London to Paris. Now he was arrested.
Where are the papers of this prisoner?
I ask you, sir, to take notice that I am a free traveler and a French citizen.
Where are the papers of this prisoner? All right, come with me. Defarge! Defarge! We have another one!
You will come with me.
Come on.
Monsieur Devarge knew that this is Charles Darnley.
You are the aristocrat Saint Evremond.
I am St. Evremond?
Married.
Yes.
Where is your wife?
In England. We were married in England.
Without doubt. You are now consigned, Evremond, to the prison of La Force.
For what reason? Haven't I the right at least to...
Aristocrats have no rights.
You see, aristocrats have no rights. At the time of revolution, they said that aristocrats have no rights to defend themselves. And now let's see the dialogue between Defarge and Monsieur and Charles Darnley. That shows that
It is you?
he has some sympathy.
Sir,
Your wife is the daughter of Dr. Manette?
you know him?
The doctor is known by all good patriots. My name is Defarge. I keep a wine shop on Saint Antoine. You have heard of me?
It was your house, monsieur, where Dr. Manette was found by my wife.
I must ask you, why in the name of heaven and hell did you ever come back to France?
To save the life of a devoted servant. That is all. That is the truth.
It is a bad truth. And you are a fool, monsieur. We have a newly born female here, called the guillotine.
Can you render me some assistance?
None?
Can you answer a single question?
Say what it is.
Am I to have any communication here with the outside world?
No.
There is an English gentleman here in Paris, a banker by the name of Jarvis Lorry. Would you please tell him that I have been thrown into the prison of La Force? Just that only.
I will do nothing for you. My duty is to my country and the people. I am the sworn servant of the people against you. I will do nothing.
You see, he said that my duty is to my country and my people. Now let's see the questions. What were the strong obligations that drew Charles and Mr. Lorry to Paris during the time of danger? Darnley's obligation to Gabelle and his sense of honor drew him to Paris to meet his fate. Mr. Lorry too was drawn to Paris by his obligation to save the bank's office in Paris. These are the reasons for Mr. Lorry and Charles Darnley. What did Tillyson's bank represent during the revolution? Tillyson's bank was the meeting place for all the French noblemen who had sent their money to England before the revolution. Some went there for business and others went there to know news about the French Revolution. Question number 3. What was written in Gabelle's letter? Why was he put in prison? Gabelle was put in prison because he was accused of treason for serving the Evremond family. He was going to be sentenced to death. He tried to tell the people that Darnley was on their side and that he had ordered Gabelle to return the taxes to the people, but in vain. Gabelle begged Charles to come to Paris and help him. What happens in Paris has its effect on London. Explain. That's a very important question, and I think that question, I had seen that question before in one of the previous exams. What happens in Paris has its effect on London. Explain. That's right. When the revolution broke out in France, the noblemen escaped to London. Mr. Lorry had to go to Paris to protect the bank's documents during the revolution. Charles Darnley was forced to go back to France too in order to save his servant's life. Number five, for weeks I have been asking every Frenchman I know, but no one can tell me where this Mark Saint Evremond can be found. Who said this to whom? Mr. Lorry said this to Charles Darnley. Who was the Mark Saint Evremond? He was Charles Darnley, of course. Why couldn't the speaker find him? Because Charles Darnley lived in England under a false name. And Charles Darnley didn't tell Mr. Lorry that his real name is Saint Evremond. He told only Dr. Manet. My crime is said to be treason against the people. Treason because I have served you. Comment. Of course, these words were said by Gabel, the servant. Gabel said this in his letter to Charles Darnley. He was put in prison because he was accused of treason for serving the Evremond family. Gabel begged Charles to come to Paris and help him. Will I be left to rot unjustly in the prison without being able to communicate with the outside world? Comment. Charles Darnley said this to the citizen Tivache. He wondered if he wouldn't be given the right to contact his friends and tell them about his place. Defarge responded that he would be treated like those poor people had been treated before. They were put in prison for so long without trials or even accusations. Number 8, although Darnley knew how dangerous it was to go to Paris, he decided to go there at once. Explain, telling what this shows about his character. Charles Darnley knew that it was very dangerous to go to Paris during the revolution, and he was trying to convince Mr. Lorry not to go. However, when he read Gabel's letter, he decided to go to clear his name and to help the poor servant. This shows that he is a man of duty and honor. Number 9, Mr. Lorry and Darnley decided to go to Paris for different reasons, but similar motives. Explain. That's a very important question. Charles Darnley decided to go to Paris to clear his name and to help the poor servant, whereas Mr. Lorry went there to help save the bank's documents. But both of them went there driven by the motives of duty. Yes, the trip is long and difficult, especially in winter. Paris is in great disorder and you might be in danger. Who said this to whom? Charles Darnley said this to Mr. Lorry, of course, before he received the letter from Gabel. What was the speaker trying to do? Charles was trying to discourage Mr. Lorry against going to Paris during such a dangerous period. What's the irony in these words? Charles was telling Mr. Lorry about the dangers of the journey. However, he didn't hesitate to go there to help his servant. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching that chapter. Till we meet in the next chapter, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you. See you, inshallah.